Hi. When I was a kid, my favorite show was Square One TV on public television. It was basically a sketch comedy show, but where all the jokes were puns on mathematical concepts. The end of each episode also featured a serialized mystery series, a spoof of Dragnet called MathNet, where the detectives were mathematicians who carried calculators in their shoulder holsters. It even featured James Earl Jones as the chief. But why do I bring this up? Well, in one of the stories, The Case of the Willing Parrot, the mystery revolved around a parrot who constantly repeated a series of numbers. It would say, 1123, 1123, over and over again. And every once in a while it would say, 5, Eureka! And it was through this repetition that I first learned about, and still have imprinted on my memory, the famous Fibonacci sequence of numbers. The Fibonacci sequence was the key to that week's mystery, and it's the key to this week's video. Now, if you're interested in music, and particularly synthesis, then you probably know a thing or two about how simple mathematical relationships can be played with in various ways to create compelling sounds and rhythms. Each new number in the Fibonacci sequence is generated by adding the previous two numbers together. So after 1, 1, 2, 3, we have 5, 8, 13, 21, etc. Fibonacci originally came up with this sequence in the context of a thought experiment about predicting the population growth of rabbits. But it wasn't called the Fibonacci sequence at the time, partially because the mathematician in question didn't actually take the nickname Fibonacci until hundreds of years after his death. Perhaps less surprising, he was not the first to identify this sequence. One earlier instance of it is found in India, where it was used for the analysis of the meter of Sanskrit poetry. So I feel confident in saying that the metric, artistic use of this concept goes pretty far back. Today you may be more likely to encounter it in the so-called Fibonacci spiral, which is drawn by superimposing a curved line on a series of rectangles whose sides are defined by the Fibonacci numbers. As the numbers get higher and higher, they begin to approximate the so-called golden ratio, which generates a spiral that is self-similar, in other words, the same shape at every scale right up to infinity. So again, since so many musical concepts, from rhythm and form down to harmonic motion, are informed by simple mathematical relationships, maybe it would be fun to try out a patch based on these particular relationships. Since any number in the Fibonacci sequence is always the sum of the previous two, it would also amount to the sum of several of the previous numbers. That might be confusing. So, for example, 34 is the sum of 21 and 13, which are the two numbers that appear just before it in the sequence. It's also the sum of 5, 8, and 21, which, if we remove 13, would be the previous three numbers. So each new number interlocks most obviously with its immediate neighbors, but also interlocks with some of the more distant ones, all of the more distant ones. How will this manifest in rhythms based on these numbers? Let's find out. So I'm thinking we'll use tempi to generate divisions in the Fibonacci sequence. I'm going to skip the two ones and move straight to 2. So divide by 2, divide by 3, 5, 8, 13, and 21. Let's patch up a few voices to be instantiated by these divisions. Sawtooth, square wave, final output, noise from the morphogene, smooth VCO from the wogglebug. We'll mix a few of these in the Modumix and then send them to the aux in of the Optomix. 21. I'm sorry, 2. 3. 5. 8. 13. 21. We'll use 21 for something else because it's so slow. We can, of course, turn on and off individual voices by muting them at their source at the tempi. Let's go ahead and sequence pitch while we're at it. Do a little modulation of the verb as well. Now, one thing we can do to modulate this sequence is to shift the channels around using the mod input on the tempi. let's shift just the first 3 to start. We can shift more or fewer of them as we like. But no matter how we shift them, the 6 channels are always playing the Fibonacci numbers. Echophone to add some echoes to some of these voices, the ones from the Mondi mix. I think it's fun to take little mathematical concepts like this and build patches off them just to see what happens. Do you have any favorites? Let us know in the comments. Thanks for watching, and happy patching.